Hi, YouTube. It's been a while. Yes, honey. Quick updates. Changed schools. Managed not to get COVID for 4 years after COVID started because I mask. Still. But then everybody else stopped, and then I got COVID. So my sweet baby boy Kevin passed. He developed a testicular tumor, which male budgies are somewhat prone to, but I later learned Japanese breeding stock especially is. And he lasted a pretty good time with it, about 3 years, but then it just got too big and it was pushing on his lungs and he developed cystic pneumonia and passed. And then 2 years ago, Nola also passed. And I still think about her every day. She got to 21. She wasn't sick. She wasn't in pain. She was just shutting down. Her body was just done, just tired. Since then, I have gotten, who you heard earlier. I'm gonna come say hi. Daisy. Daisy is a pineapple mutation green cheek conure. She's 3 and she's an absolute nightmare right now because she's going through bird puberty. And then I have my new kitty, Spencer. He's 7 now. I adopted him when he was 5. He'd been yes, honey. He'd been in a shelter for 2.5 years. He's FIV positive, and his shelter listing described him as clingy and needs. Yes, this is Daisy. Say hi, Daisy. She's a brat right now, so she's a little dangerous. She's quite bitey at the moment. And clingy and needs humans, which is exactly my vibe. So he came home with me, and so now I have a cat and a bird again. I have switched schools. The last school that you saw me working at, we unionized, and it didn't go well. And my relationship with the school became difficult. But, you know, it's my constitutional right in Japan to unionize, so basically it just became a really hostile work environment, and I'm not really cool with that. If you're wondering why I'm like doing this and making this video now, years later, it's because my current school, I'm really, okay, I have been told that someone from my current school found this channel, and specifically that they were concerned that I was encouraging people to take medication that's not theirs. I think the implication was that I was encouraging drug use and drug abuse specifically, which is weird because I'm a teetotaler. I've never had alcohol. I've never had drugs. I've never smoked anything. I'm about as straight-laced as you can get. I only take medicine that is prescribed to me by a doctor as it is prescribed. Like, of all the people to accuse of drug abuse and encouraging drug abuse, you picked a weird one. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to run down real quick how this goes, right? Thank you, Daisy. I'm mentally ill. And what that means is there's an organ in my body that doesn't function correctly. It's the organ that thinks, but it is an organ. And I think people forget that when an organ malfunctions, it needs treatment. And that just because one of the organs can think about itself doesn't mean it's not an organ. And that if I had kidney disease, you would not think strangely of me for treating kidney disease with dialysis and medication. If I had type 1 diabetes, you wouldn't think odd of me for using an insulin pump. Like, I have an organ that doesn't work right for genetic reasons. The organ that doesn't... Sorry, it looks like I'm flipping people off, and I apologize. I'm not. It's just that my fingernails right now, one of them is harder to see than the other, so I'm actually using 2 fingers. But, and I have mental illness. It runs in my family. I feel like you're coming over here to bite me, and I don't like it. I have mental illness. They run in my family, up and down both sides. Dad's side is the depression bipolar side. Mom's side is the anxiety OCD side. And then the ADHD is the gifted kidness. I actually think my paternal grandfather was an actual genuine genius. And I also found out after his passing that one of my uncles was autistic. So there is some neurodivergence on that side of the family as well. That as a former gifted kid who was later discovered to be ADHD, that's why. That's probably where it's from. It's just that I was homeschooled and we didn't notice. Turns out, it's easy to not notice when you're not being seen by a professional teacher who has been trained to notice these things on a daily basis. Same reason nobody caught my scoliosis. In the US, they test for scoliosis every year at school. I didn't go to school, so my pediatricians thought I'd been checked, and I wasn't. So they didn't catch it till I was 17, and it was too late. In terms of mental illness, I have been displaying symptoms since I was a baby. My father talks about having been able to tell when I was an infant that something was off. Specifically that I seemed depressed. I've been depressed. I've been anxious. I've had panic attacks literally as long as I can remember. One of my earliest memories is a panic attack. And the reason I know it's a panic attack and not a temper tantrum is because there wasn't a reason. And there was nothing that could have been given to me or done that would have stopped it. So, I can remember, kind of the trigger vaguely, but I also know that reversing the situation that had caused it would not have resolved it. Whereas if you give if you give a kid who's having a temper tantrum what they want, the temper tantrum stops most of the time. Mine didn't because they weren't temper tantrums. It was me being triggered. And we worked out that anxiety and OCD, but mostly anxiety, were an issue in kindergarten. Thank you for contributing. It was an issue in kindergarten. That's why they decided not to put me in first grade. It's because they went, we can't. This is not going to work. So I got homeschooled. I was homeschooled for 10 years from that point. From the age of 6 on, homeschooled. And then I started university when I was 16. So it didn't affect me academically. What it also did was put me in the eyesight of people who knew something was wrong. So because this is a genetic thing going up and down my family, my father also has the same kind of bipolar disorder that I do as well, which is bipolar 2. Bipolar 2 and bipolar 1 are different in that bipolar 1 has more significant extremes. The manias are more intense. My manic states are much closer to a hypomanic state, which is like a little bit, it's not, I don't experience psychosis. Bipolar people can experience psychosis. I don't think I've experienced full psychosis at any point. Definitely degrees of mania, and my manias are characterized by dysphoria, which in me means that I'm very irritable. And that's very out of character for me, which is why it got noticed as my dad went, my normally friendly, happy, bubbly child is either lacking in emotion whatsoever, depressed, or really, really cranky for no reason, manic. Like, that's it. That's what we got. So my baseline is still my baseline. It's just unmedicated. I also had really low lows that were really awful. And then people weren't quite clocking the hypomania until I was out of the puberty days when that might be a reason. And so I got diagnosed with OCD and depression when I was 9. I was treated by a doctor for 2 years, monthly therapy, to try to resolve those. And it didn't do anything at all. Well, the OCD got a little bit better, but I also think there was, we did more work at home on the OCD than I think therapy did. I didn't like my therapist as a child. He was just kind of, not creepy, just like we didn't jive. And my brother also has various, like, he's got a couple things too. Like, we all got something. We all got something. And then when I was 11, I started medication, which is what you do when you're sick. And I was sick. And I really find it sad, honestly, that any of my colleagues don't understand the very reasonable and real, like, when someone is sick, they deserve to be cared for, and they deserve treatment, and they deserve care that will alleviate their suffering. No one should have to suffer, especially in a way that is very, not easily, but fairly straightforwardly resolved. And I think, like, on a fundamental level, I am quite literally disabled. That's what mental illness does to you. It makes it difficult, if not impossible, to just live a normal life. Like, I can't not take antidepressants, because when I'm depressed, I don't have anything. I don't have energy. I don't have emotions. I don't have an appetite. I don't sleep, or I sleep all the time. It's nothing. It's not a life. And I'm very fortunate that I always had people around me who were keeping an eye on me and would make sure that I didn't get to a point of potentially harming myself. But that was a very real possibility. That's a very real possibility with depression. And stigmatizing people who take medication that saves their lives and makes sure that they don't harm themselves. Ew, that's not a good look. Let's not do that. And I know that I live in a country where stigmatizing mental illness is still a huge problem. It's frankly shocking that we are in 2026, the year of our Lord, and there are still people who are afraid to have their children evaluated for learning disabilities, that are afraid to take their children to doctors for evaluation for psychiatric conditions, especially because some of them are temporary. Some of them might be situational. You don't know until you take them and have a professional who knows what they're doing talk to them and evaluate them. But what you're risking there is so serious. If no one had listened to me when I was a child and when I was suffering, and if no one had taken the time to care and find professionals who could help me and have me evaluated by as many as they could find, because they needed answers and I deserved answers and they wanted me to feel better, there is a world in which I wouldn't have survived being a teenager. I would have ended my own life. That's a very real possibility. I have tried to communicate to people that I consider... It ties back into one of the reasons why I can't go back to the U.S. I can't go somewhere that doesn't have socialized healthcare. I can't go back to where someone doesn't have socialized healthcare because my medication's really expensive. And I consider my condition to be, without medication, life-threatening. Because my own body will make me end my own life. That's what it is. So, and that's one of my conditions. So that's the bipolar. The depression side of the bipolar could very easily lead to me attempting to harm myself. I've been very lucky that every time I've gotten somewhat close to that, either I have reached out for assistance or someone has noticed and been able to help me, and that I've been medicated consistently and well, so that there haven't been that many severe dips and episodes over the course of my life since I started taking medication. And I'm very grateful that my medication works and that I have access to it and that it is something that gives me my life back. I get to have a life. And some people that's not true for. There's a lot of people who suffer without this kind of care because they don't want people to know that they need it. But if you're sick, you're sick. And if you're sick, you should, and you have medicine that will make you not sick anymore, you can take the medicine that the doctor tells you can take. And you should, if that's what you want. And that's what I want. The OCD went mostly away. Every so often I got a hair of it back, but for the most part it went away because I treated it with therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is very, very effective with obsessive compulsive disorder, so that was fine. And then the panic disorder and anxiety doesn't go away. That one didn't go away. If anything, it got worse. And yeah, honey. And I think that one's quite, not controversial exactly. Bipolar disorder is definitely the most controversial because it is the least widely understood and it is the most poorly represented in media, in my opinion. So that one gets a bad rap. But in terms of anxiety and like panic disorder, it's the most life disrupting because I can't function at a very basic level when I am deeply, deeply anxious. Deeply, deeply anxious. I can't have a conversation very clearly. I can't focus on things. I feel like until you've had an anxiety attack, you don't even truly know what that feels like. Like, truly know how off it is. And the reason why that one's controversial is because of the type of medications that people can take to treat them. Primarily, people will be taking benzodiazepines. And benzodiazepines are controversial, I guess, because they can be abused. They are addictive, but they're kind of addictive in... I feel like calling them addictive is almost misleading, or at least it's misleading if you don't really understand what addiction means. So I am addicted to them in the sense that if I stopped taking them immediately, I would become extremely ill. That's true of basically any medication that you are prescribed to take for a long time. I also have a thyroid condition. I have hypothyroidism. My thyroid doesn't work. I take thyroid replacement. I take hormone therapy, like hormones. I take hormones for my thyroid because it doesn't work. It doesn't make them. If I stop taking those dead cold turkey stop, I am going to be extremely ill. Very, very sick, very, very quick. But for some reason, people aren't as upset about that. Like, that one doesn't make people freak out. It's the benzodiazepines that makes people freak out. And I think it's because people don't understand that medicine has medical uses. And just because there are people out there who aren't doing aren't taking it as they're supposed to, or are people do crazy things, right? People do crazy things all the time. But there's a big difference between me taking a medication that I'm prescribed, as prescribed, for a condition that I actually have, and someone procuring some sort of medication from a dealer. Like, do you know what I mean? You hear what I'm saying? Me taking medication because I'm sick doesn't mean that I'm encouraging people to not do that. That doesn't make any sense. What I am encouraging is for people to take medication as it's prescribed to them by doctors. If a doctor who is licensed and is treating you tells you to take it, please take your medicine. If your medicine isn't working for you, talk to your doctor and they can help you fix the medicine, or try different medicine, or try something else. That's called medical care. I have medical conditions. The funniest one to me is my ADHD medication. Because in the United States, it's not the benzodiazepines that people would be stigmatizing and like, well, they're a little bit, but less so. The one that everybody would be crazy about would be the ADHD medication. Because in the US, the primary treatment for ADHD are stimulants. They're the most effective. I do want to clarify that. Stimulants are, in fact, the most effective treatment for ADHD. Like, put aside all of your legalities, all of your cultural stigmas. On a scientific, demonstrated, evidential level, stimulants are, in fact, the most effective treatment for ADHD. I don't take a stimulant for my ADHD because only one of them is legal in Japan. Stimulants aren't legal here. I believe it's Concerta, but very recently was made legal. Very recently, like in the last 5 years, like really, really recent. I take an SNRI. I take a selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. It's crazy, right? I take the same kind of medication for my ADHD that I take for my depressive episodes. My depressive side of my bipolar disorder is also an SNRI. You can't even get high off of the drugs that I consume legally as prescribed by my doctor, okay? Nothing that I take has fun side effects. Like, I cannot emphasize this enough. Nothing that I take because it's fun. Nothing that I take in any way except the way that it's prescribed to me. Nor do I encourage people to go out and do that. Like, listen, colleague who saw this, became alarmed, come talk to me. Just come talk to me. Let's just have a talk, because I feel like you have some pre-existing biases or misunderstandings about what this is and what I show. And I really want you to come talk to me and let's examine this. And let's be honest, because what you're doing is perpetuating a shame and a fear in people who do have these illnesses to share their feelings. And when so many of us are shameful about feelings that if we don't share could result in us ending our lives, we cannot continue to live in a society where that shame exists. As long as someone is afraid to tell you that they're suicidal, they'll die. You should endeavor to be the person that someone can trust and tell without shame. And maybe what they tell you is going to be hard for you to hear. And maybe it's going to be something you don't really know how to help. But truthfully, just being someone who will listen and not judge and not be rude about it, be diminishing, just listen. Just listen. Because that's what people need. And you never know if you might be the last person they're going to tell. If you're lucky, you won't be. At the end of the day, I would rather take these for the rest of my life, every single day, and be alive. I would rather take all of these as prescribed to me by a doctor for the rest of my life than kill myself. And that is, in fact, the choice that I'm making. I am choosing to live. I am choosing to participate in this world. I am choosing actively every day. Every day that I take my pills, I am choosing to live. And I need you to understand that. Okay? It's not weakness. It's not shameful. These, taking what my doctor prescribes to me as prescribed to me for the conditions that I have, is the bravest thing that I could possibly do. So, yeah. It's 2026. Go to your doctor. Tell them the truth. Get some help. Feel better. And if you think that taking medicine that your doctor gives you, the way that your doctor tells you to take it, is encouraging drug abuse, read a book. Come on, like, it's really, no. And if you're going to accuse anybody of encouraging illegal drug use, maybe don't pick the person who has never consumed alcohol Never done any illegal substances. Never smoked anything ever. I am the worst example of abusing anything. They used to talk in college, they told me I was boring. I went to college in Portland. I don't think you understand. I went to college in Portland. Everybody else was doing marijuana. I wanted nothing to do with it. I stayed the hell away. Nobody did it around me. They knew not to take it around. They knew to stay the hell away from me with that stuff. No, thank you. And I have done nothing except live in countries where it is extremely criminalized. Like, I am making choices. And those choices are to do this right and safe. And I don't think there has ever been a time in my entire life where I have ever said otherwise or encouraged otherwise. And I mean, I last updated this thing in like 2018, 2019. I just want to talk. Yeah. I'm doing fine, guys. I'm doing great.